Out of the tree of life, I just picked me a plum. You came along and everything started to hum. Still, it's a real good bet, the best is yet to come.
We are the Org. Our mission is to assimilate Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and beer. Lots of beer.
Hello, friends!
Hello!
Welcome to bOrgCast 722 with Peter and Anne-Marie.
Hello!
And let's get stuck into our first episode, Deep Space Nine's The Wire.
A deadly addiction to a mind implant.
It was designed to stimulate the pleasure centers of my brain.
How long has it been on?
2 years.
Threatens Bashir's Cardassian friend.
Garak's body has undergone a severe shock.
Leaving it in could drive him insane.
Get away from me!
But removing it could kill him.
He's dying.
Then you should let him die.
On the next Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
That was a good trailer.
It was, wasn't it? Yes.
Doesn't reveal what it shouldn't reveal.
Doesn't give away too much, no, which would be very easy to do, let's face it, but they don't do it, thankfully.
Yeah, it captures the episode well, I thought.
Yep.
We open with Garak and Bashir on the promenade, and Garak's been waiting for a freighter that hasn't appeared. And they talk about Cardassian literature and this story called NeverEnding Sacrifice, which is apparently the greatest Cardassian novel.
Written on the pages is the answer to a never-ending story. Never-ending story.
Yeah, well, we got a tune already anyway.
Yeah, Bashir thinks it's dull, but apparently the repetitive epic is, the pinnacle of Cardassian literature. Garak's clearly very grumpy.
Yes.
And he looks particularly knocked when Bashir says there's more to life than duty, which, that's come up in other conversations between the two, that duty is everything to the Cardassian culture. But Bashir says he's clearly in pain, and you've got to go to the infirmary, and he's like, no, and he doesn't want to humour the doctor, and sort of storms off. Kira appears and goes, what's that about?
Yeah, one of the reasons why he's cheesed off is the long queue for the replimat.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so why is there a queue for the replimat? When they've got replicators in their quarters, why does anybody queue up for lunch in a restaurant when they can get the same meal, presumably, out of their replicator in their room? So, particularly with the way Garak's feeling, I'm surprised he didn't just say to Bashir, oh, let's just eat food in our quarters. It just seems really odd.
The only thing I can think of is that it's a Cardassian thing, bearing in mind these are Cardassian replicators, where what a in-quarters replicator can do.
Maybe it's more basic than... Yeah, it could be argued. Or perhaps there's something about, sometimes people like eating in a restaurant because it's a social thing to do. You've got other people around you.
Yeah.
Possibly, but clearly...
That wouldn't work for this scenario.
No, clearly Garak is not in the mood to be social.
Anyway, that's just a guess.
Mm.
So then that's the end teaser.
Teaser of mysteriousness rather than threat,
yeah.
It has to be said. But yeah, not bad.
And then you open and the Fanar plant is poorly.
The world's most painful looking dildo.
It's a cat penis. They're spiky.
Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it.
No, it's not like I've got any fucking experience. Bloody hell. You're sick.
Maybe not.
No.
Not into the whole dressing up thing then.
Not with spiky penises, no.
No, that's a step too far down the road of authenticism.
I happen to have read books about cats. I happen to know they have a barbed penis. It's why cats make so much noise when they're mating.
Oh, right, okay. Thanks for that.
So that's where my brain went. Particularly, it had the little ring of pubic hair, didn't it?
I know, it was. It's just so
and
phallic.
It was sort of pinkish with spikes.
Why has Dax got a phallic plant? No, we don't want to know.
Well, Dax is our cat. That's why he's got a...
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really confusing because we do have a cat called Dax.
Yeah, who presumably has a barbed penis, but he doesn't keep it in a pot and say it's plant.
No.
I'm confused now.
And slightly disturbed, I should think.
Yes.
We do get I'm a doctor, not a
botanist,
which is a nice carrying on McCoy's tradition. And what a shame Keiko's away. Aww. There's a nice reference to O'Brien's kayaking escapades.
Yeah.
The fact that, have you been treating him again? It's like, no, Garak.
So then you have Bashir watching Garak and Quark from, is it the upper promenade?
Yes,
Okay.
the upper level.
So you can't really hear much of the conversation, but you can see the people. Bashir then tries to find out from Quark what it was that Garak was trying to buy. And the Ferengi comes up with a load of, bollocks, basically. And although it's obvious that he's lying, it's also clear that Bashir isn't going to get the truth out of Quark. And then he's like, can I interest you in some Saurian brandy? And then he does the Ferengi wanking sign.
Yes, he says, or a night in the holiday.
Honestly, and he does this symbol by your ear. That's got to be the Ferengi sign for Wake-Up, hasn't it? Yeah.
What did you say? You can't unsee it either.
No.
He does it a lot more than I ever remembered him doing.
Yeah, it's the Ferengi wanking sign. Anyway, you cut to the infirmary and Sisko's been yelling at admirals again.
Brilliant.
I like that. But then it's like, what is he being treated for? Is it a sore throat? Is it a headache?
I don't know.
Or did he yell at a load of admirals and get absolutely rip-roaring drunk and he's being treated for a hangover? And then Bashir asks O'Brien if he can salvage the Cardassian medical files, but apparently it's going to take about 2 weeks.
In the background, by the way, we can see Nurse Jabara, who we've not seen in a long while. Basically, they because she's got a few lines later on, they basically wheel her out whenever they need a nurse that speaks in the infirmary. She's played by Anne Gillespie, who was also in season 2 Next Generation Pen Pals, who... Yes, was an ensign in that. She had a regular role in Beverly Hills 90210, and having done a bit of digging, apparently she's now a priest in the Episcopal Church, which is kind of like the American branch of the Church of England, basically. Yes, based in Christchurch, Virginia, apparently.
Go.
Yeah, from acting in Hollywood to being a priest. Awesome. I'd like to go the other way, but it's not going to happen, is it?
What, you playing an alien?
Oh, anything really. Just the idea of being acting is faintly ridiculous, so yeah, a dream, can't I?
Okay, I wouldn't want to.
No?
No.
Why not? Lots of money?
Oh, it's only lots of money once you've been doing it for ages and selling your soul and your body to those who might potentially cast you.
Yeah, well, again, that's another flaw in the plan, isn't it? Because nobody's going to want my body.
Well, I do.
Only very specialist programming, I should think.
Yeah. Anyway, I've totally lost my place in my notes.
Funny that.
Oh, dear.
Quark hails
Yes.
to say that he needs Bashir right away in his bar.
And Garak is drunk.
Yeah, great drunk acting from Robinson here,
I
isn't it?
like it. Yeah, he's drunk and cantankerous. And Bashir tries to trick him into going to the infirmary. And he's like, no, you're not making me go there. And then he collapses. And he ends by saying, make it stop.
And before he says, we'll go to my quarters, because it'll be quieter. And thus was 1,000 Tumblr entries born.
Yes. Yes. And then you have Bashir talking to Odo, because he says, you worked with the Cardassians for 5 years, you know them better than anyone. And I love his line. He's like, well, yeah, but I never looked inside their skulls. Because they find that Garak has some sort of implant. They don't know what it is particularly, or exactly what it is it's doing, but that's clearly what the problem is. But it was not a punishment device unless it was put in a long time ago because of the scarring. And Odo says that he's going to be eavesdropping on a conversation that Quark is having, because the Doctor tells Odo that he knows that Quark is connected somehow. So he says, Quark always has his dodgy conversations at such and such a time when the bar closes, so do you want to join me?
I love the fact that Odo's bugging Quark.
I know. It's brilliant. And then you've got Bashir going, is that legal?
Yeah.
And you get Odo going, it's in the best interest of station security. And then he says, now do you want to know what's going on or not? And Bashir's like, I see your point. So Quark is contacting someone from Cardassia Prime, who we later find out is called Buhika.
Yes, he's a great character.
He is.
He's played by the wonderfully named Jimmy Skaggs.
Really?
Yes, he sadly died in 2004. He was also in Lethal Weapon, Monk, Alias, ER, and the A-Team. Hooray! They
reminisce for a bit, Quark and Buhika, and then Quark's like, how would you like to earn yourself enough latinum to buy a promotion? Which, is yet another sign that the situation in Cardassia is very corrupt, which we already know. And he's like, well, I need a piece of biotechnology, but I don't really know what it is. So he sends him the requisition code, But he goes, yeah, okay, I'll try and get that. And then all these alarms go off.
Yes, he should have used Google Safe Search, shouldn't he? Oh dear.
Yeah. And it turns out it's classified technology. Even the requisition code is classified, and it's linked to the Obsidian Order.
That's our first mention of it, yes. Originally it was going to be called the Grey Order, which, considering the colour of Cardassian skin, it kind of makes sense, really.
Yeah, but Obsidian's purple is much better.
Purple. Oh, I love purple.
Oh, yes, obviously you're going to say that, yes. The reason why they didn't go with the Grey Order is because then the writer watched an episode of Babylon 5.
Grey Council.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact we also get the Tal Shiar mentioned as well.
Yeah, I like that. And then Odo and Bashir are a bit confused, because it's like, well, if it is a punishment device, why is Garak wanting another one?
Yes.
And what Bashir surmises that it's something to do with working parts or schematics or something like that. That's what he's really looking for. And then he goes to the infirmary, and Garak's left. So Bashir then goes to Garak's quarters and does the emergency override hoobly thing, and Garak collapses.
We've always explained that what's in his head is a torture blocker, basically.
Yes.
So the idea is that it fills his head with endorphins so he wouldn't feel any pain. The problem being that he's kept it on for far too long. So he's got
yes,
used
it was
to
meant to be used in the event of torture, never meant for continuous use. And it's like, how long have you been using it? 2 years.
Yeah. And the torture, it turns out, is the fact that the station is the wrong temperature and the lights are too bright. And you're thinking, why doesn't he have his lights darker in his quarters? Because surely that would help at least. I mean, if they can alter the gravity, like, was it Melora?
Yeah.
If they can do that, then surely they can turn the lights down and alter the temperature of individual quarters. I mean, obviously, if he's out on the promenade, that's going to be different. But, yeah. It was a shame, because if his quarters were darkly lit, it would look quite effective.
It would. And if they were hot. You know, and Bashir was like, oh, it's hot
whenever
here.
somebody's in there, they're sweating, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think this is probably the first time we've seen his quarters, but it would have been a nice touch just to have customised them a bit.
Yeah. Garak's body is now dependent on the higher endorphin levels. And Bashir, he's definitely gonna try and save him and help him and whatever, and you get Garak saying,
Doctor, did anyone ever tell you that you are an infuriating pest?
Chief O'Brien, all the time, and I don't pay any attention to him either.
Has it ever occurred to you that I might be getting exactly what I deserve?
Which I love. And then Garak says that Bashir needs to know who you're trying to save. And this reminded me of a book I read recently. I don't know exactly when it was written. I think maybe 2000, by Robert Goddard, where the main character is a heart surgeon, and he saved someone who it's a fictional character, but kind of the equivalent of Radovan Karadzic.
Oh, right.
And it comes back to haunt him that he saved somebody guilty of such horrible crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in this book it's all about the Hippocratic Oath and how...
Yeah, the Hippopotamus Oath, yes.
Yes. Okay.
when it was called that in something.
Was it?
Don't forget your Hippopotamus Oath.
Simpsons?
Possibly, yes. That's a very Homer Simpson thing to say, isn't it? Yes, it may well be a Simpsons reference.
Okay. But yeah, the Hippocratic Oath comes back to haunt him, but it's very much the case if he didn't see how he could do anything other than save the patient that was in front of him because of the oath. And it made me think of that. It's the same dilemma, that Bashir isn't going to say no because his duty is to the patient who is in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Garak makes up... What we find out at the end of the episode is some bollocks.
You may as well have called this episode Garak Makes Up Some Bollocks. No, iTunes won't let us. Boo. Yeah. Oh, by the way, it was The Simpsons. I've just Googled it.
Okay.
So.
Because he talks about him and Elim. We find out at the end of the episode that Elim is his first name. But it involves killing civilians, and I figured he probably did do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get Odo asking, when he can speak to Garak, because he's got four murder cases on the books linked to the Obsidian Order. But Bashir's like, no. And I love the way that he stands up to Odo. He's firm, but he's not shouty or rude or whatever. Bashir, this is. But he does, it's quite clear that, no, this is what the rules are, this ain't happening. And I like the sort of nod that Odo gives him, is sort of like out of respect. And then he leaves.
I like the fact that Bashir can pull rank on Odo.
Yeah.
which is quite important, obviously. So
it's important, but it happens all over Starfleet and has done
exactly.
ever since.
Yes. I mean, a doctor can actually pull rank on a captain, even though the captain obviously outranks them generally. I like that.
And then I have the very note that you were saying earlier. If Cardassians don't like light, why are Garak's quarters so bright?
Mm-hmm.
So Garak has sort of been... I don't know whether he's asleep or sedated or what, but then he wakes up and trashes his quarters.
We get the world's sleepiest montage.
Yeah.
Normally montages are like action scenes getting ready for battle. This is Bashir gets a coffee, Bashir sits down, Bashir moves to the other side of the room. It's like they're doing their best to make it look exciting, but to be honest, this particular scene doesn't work so well. The director, by the way, Kim Friedman, who's I think the first female director on Deep Space Nine, does generally a really good job of... There are lots of two-person scenes, and she does a really good job of keeping them interesting by moving the camera around, especially this stuff when Garak starts trashing his room and stuff, and the camera's really jerking about all over the place, kind of matching his erratic mood, basically.
So this time round, he says that he was a protege of Anabra Tain himself, and then he says, "You don't know who that is, do you?" So if it's something that was designed to impress Bashir, it didn't really work because Bashir has no idea who this is. But again, you get more bollocks. But he says he interrogated children, and I figured he probably did.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, each time he's telling you stuff, it's plausible.
Yeah.
I mean, it later turns out not necessarily to have been completely true or even at all true, but each time it's plausible. And who are we dealing with here? Who is this mysterious guy? It's really good.
It's plausible, but it could be all the time complete bollocks. It could be none of it is true, because as we find out at the end of the episode, it's like, it would be merciful to let him die. He could be coming up with anything he thinks that will make the Doctor
not help him, basically. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But equally, it could be stories that he knows have happened to somebody else. It could be stories from Cardassian literature that he hasn't lent to Bashir yet. It could be, it could be coming from anywhere.
Or, as he says, it could all be true in a certain respect.
Yeah.
So there could be something in each and every version he tells.
Well, it's supposed to be, isn't it, that the most convincing lies contain a large amount of truth.
Yeah, and he is a very experienced liar.
So there's truth in there, even if we don't know. I mean, I see it as truth of character, that whatever it is he's describing, I feel that he's capable of.
And again, as partly Andrew Robinson's excellent acting selling it as well.
Yeah.
With passion and,
Garak says he hates Deep Space Nine and he hates Bashir. I figured both of those are probably true.
I'm not sure. He certainly hates himself for liking it, he later says, and that seems more true to me, actually. Yeah.
In terms of hating Bashir, I don't think he hates Julian.
No.
But I think he hates the Federation, and I think it's like he hates what Bashir represents.
And he hates the fact that he's actually grown to like him.
Yeah.
There's definitely something there, I think.
Yeah. So he goes to fight Bashir, but then he starts fitting. And then apparently his Lucasade is breaking down.
Something like that, Lucasones or something, yeah.
Oh, it was Leukocytes, but it made me think of Lucasade.
Oh, right, okay. It gets a bit technobabbly at this point, but not too bad, thankfully.
I don't know whether Leukocytes are a real thing.
I have a feeling there might be, actually.
Oh, well, anyway, as far as I'm concerned, it's Lucasade. Yeah. So, yes, his Lucasade is breaking down. They need more, but they don't know how to synthesise it. Then you get Garak saying, if you're going to try and save me, you must know the real truth. And by this point, Bashir's like, he's got one eyebrow slightly raised.
You can tell me the truth.
Obviously, he's still lying, because it's him and Elim again.
Yeah. I mean, when you later on find out that Elim is Garak, it puts such a different air on the whole thing, doesn't it?
It does. But I love this, that Bashir takes Garak's hand and says, "I forgive you for whatever it was you did." And I like that. It's like...
It's beautifully shot where he takes his hand and,
but also sort of the emotion in there and with Bashir is like, Bashir can't believe what Garak has told him, but he can believe that Garak is sorry for something.
Yeah, and it's sort of doctor as priest, which is really nice, isn't it?
Yeah. So then Bashir has decided he's off to Cardassia to find Tain, because Tain has been a consistent name. There has been consistency in what Garak has said, and so understandably Bashir's like, okay, I'm going to find this Tain guy and I'm going to see what I can do to help Garak. So then he appears in Tain's quarters. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of Tain's grandad cardigan.
It's a Cardie with a Cardie!
It is!
He's played by Paul Dooley, who turned out to be a big fan favourite, so they do bring him back.
Yeah.
He will return in season 3. I mean, he's a great character actor who's been active for some time. He was in, I think the only thing I've seen him in terms of actually physically seeing him, is Robert Altman's Popeye. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Truly bizarre film. Very. I used to have it on video. Very odd. And he plays Wimpy, which you can kind of see, can't you? He looks like Wimpy in real life, doesn't he?
Does he?
Yes.
Wimpy?
The guy who always eats the hamburgers.
I would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
He would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Yeah, he was part of Robert Altman's acting troupe, so appeared in various other of his films, but I think that's the only one I've seen. He was also the voice of Sarge in Cars.
Okay. Yep.
And been in a bunch of films and TV.
Okay.
Yes, his dress sense is not good.
No.
No wonder he sticks to the shadows.
Now, his quarters are darkly lit.
Yes, they are. It feels like Cardassia, doesn't it?
And I love the fact that, Tay knows so much about Bashir, which you expect, given what Odo said about the Obsidian Order.
Including his bizarre middle name.
Yes,
Subutio.
Subutio.
Okay. Julian Subutio Bashir. Is that what he's called now?
He is in my brain, yes.
Right, and now I've got that half man, half biscuit tune going round my head.
Which one's that?
So he'd send his doting mother up the stairs with the step ladders to get the Subutio out of the loft. He had all the accessories required for that big match atmosphere, the crowd and the dugout and the floodlights too. You'd always get palmed off with a headless centre forward and a goalkeeper with no arms and a face like his.
Duke of Prague away kit.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that, Tane's warned the military that Bashir's coming, because he's like, how did you find it entering Cardassia? And he's like, well, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. And he's like, good, that's, I did warn the military that you were coming. I like all of that. And I love the interplay between the two of them. It's absolutely fantastic.
Are all officers as brash as you or brave as you? It's like, well, I don't suppose they are.
No, probably not. And it's like, you can tell me a lot. Yes, I can probably tell you a lot about medicine, biology and tennis.
Yes.
And I think what I like about this is that if you think of what most people, me included, thought of Bashir as a character in season 1, when I first saw it, and you think about how the character has grown and developed, but that brashness is still there, but now it's proving useful.
Yes.
I just like it. I like it in terms of character development, but in a way that he's not unrecognisable from what he was then.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. And it's like, yeah, actually, if he wasn't that brash and arrogant, he wouldn't have gone to Cardassia to see the head of the Obsidian Order to say, "Oi, you fix my patient." Do you know what I mean? It's sort of... I love the interplay between the two of them. And I really like... Now, he's known by a different name at this point. These days, he's known as Alexander Siddig, but I think at this point, he's Siddig El Fadil.
Yeah, I can't remember when he's what, but yes.
Well, I know this early on, he's definitely... I think it's about season 4. But certainly now that he's in Game of Thrones, or he may not be anymore. But anyway, he's still acting.
No, in Game of Thrones, probably not.
He's probably dead by now in Game of Thrones. I don't know, I don't watch it. That's not a spoiler, I haven't got a clue. But yeah, he's still acting now, and now people will know him as Alexander Siddig. But I think at this point he's Siddig El Fadil, which is his birth name as opposed to his stage name. Well, a third of his birth name. His birth name is actually incredibly long, because if you're Arabic, you have the more... I think the right word is noble, but I could be wrong. The more names you have.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I really like his acting.
Yeah, no, he's really good in this.
He's very good. And then after this, you get Tane saying all the information you need will be on your station computers when you get home. Because I don't want Garak to die. That would be too merciful. I want him to have... He doesn't quite say a horrible life, but it pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, wants him to suffer, basically.
Wants him to suffer. And then you get Bashir going, so who's this Elim guy? And that's when you find out Elim is Garak's first name. And then you get this grin from Tane, who then says, tell him I miss him. And because of what we already know about Cardassians, you can kind of understand that he means both. He means he does miss Garak, and he means he wants him to suffer. So then you cut to the Replomat, and Bashir's got goop. And
Tydanian spice pudding. The spice is life.
That made me think of Spoo, actually.
Right.
And Garak goes, how's the spice pudding? And Bashir's like, how's the spice pudding? How's the spice pudding? And then you get sort of a bit of a conversation where Garak says he's fine, and she's like, what's true?
I still have a lot of questions to ask you about your past.
I've given you all the answers I'm capable of.
You've given me answers, all right. But they were all different. What I want to know is, out of all the stories you told me, which ones were true and which ones weren't?
My dear doctor, they're all true.
Even the lies?
Especially the lies.
Originally it was going to feature Kira, and she was going to be addicted to battlefield stims, and it was all going to be about her addiction to that.
And then they watched Babylon 5 and thought maybe stims is a bad idea?
Not so much, because whereas Franklin is taking them in order, rather like severe form of caffeine to keep people awake and going, Kira would have been taking it to help her deal with the horrors of war, basically. So slightly different air to it. It's a more sort of Vietnam, the way they drugged up the troops in Vietnam. But they felt that was rather, it was taking Kira down too dark a line, and obviously she's a regular character. They didn't want to do that, so they shifted instead to Garak. It was a bottle show to save money for the Maquis, so they could do all the spaceship battles. Yeah. And what a bottle show, eh? Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do a bottle show, do it like this. Yes. Feature Andrew Robinson in a big way. Yeah. Fantastic. Although, interestingly, it wasn't well received when it originally broadcast. Lots of fans were frustrated that you don't find out anything definite about Garak. By the end, you're not sure if it's all a heap of lies or whether there's some truth buried in there or not. But I kind of agree with the showmakers that actually it's good to retain a sense of mystery about him. Yeah. And, if you find out everything about him, then it diminishes the character. It's nice to... Right... and no spoilers, by the end of the series, you still don't know everything about Garak. You know more, but you don't know everything. And I think that's the way to do it, actually. And
as a character, he remains the same. He remains full of lies and evasive all the way through. But
on one hand, yes. On the other hand, he does have a journey and he does develop.
Yeah, he does.
But on the other hand, he does retain that characteristic of never
telling the truth
when a lie will do. Exactly, yes.
I think for me, watching it, because I would find it frustrating if the character was a straightforward character. But I never have, all the times I've watched it, found it frustrating that Garak as a character doesn't reveal any more, really, by the end of this than you knew about him in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Because that's Garak.
Yep.
And I think as well that the writers have learnt from overplaying stuff about the Klingons in Next Gen, where they started off as an interesting and mysterious species, and by the end of it had a ritual for every fucking thing you could possibly imagine, and it went over the top. And so I like this. I don't have a problem with it at all. I mean, it's frustrating that you don't know anything, but it's supposed to be, because that's what Garak's like. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the whole point.
So shall we find out what other people thought?
Yes.
Okay, we've heard from the Mark. The Wire are all true, especially the lies. Or sorry, this is going to go long. Can do this without spoilers. Okay, here goes. Let's get down right now. The Wire is not the best TV show of all time. It's great. But the Star Trek episode, the real good one. The one with a chip in Garak's brain. So we get a hyper-focused character show as the anti-torture device implanted in Garak's brain begins to malfunction, putting his life in jeopardy. The only option is to remove the implant, which means the unavoidable withdrawal symptoms because of Garak's physical dependency on the implant's effects. But this story isn't about a life or death struggle, it's about Garak's mysterious exile and what the exile has done to him emotionally. He's a tortured person in an environment he finds contemptible, and only the implant has allowed him to retain the calm, amiable surface. But without the implant, Garak's dark side emerges. Many people start doing drugs or any substance just to numb whatever pain they have. Then they continue to do more and more until they are physically addicted. They also show Garak going through withdrawals in a realistic way. I know most fans will mainly like talking about what we learn or don't learn about Garak's past, but I think the drug withdrawal aspect should get more appreciation and discussion. Coming away from what Mark was saying, that's very much what the idea behind the original episode pitch, as I say, which was about Kira. It was about addiction and how people null the pain with drugs and then get addicted to the drugs. Yeah. Anyway, back to the Mark. The premise is fundamentally simple, and that's why it works. Just confine some good actors to a room and reveal the inner truths or hear inner lies of the characters. Intentional vague backstory reveals the possibility for countless dark chapters in Garak's past. He was clearly involved with the nefarious Obsidian Order, the all-knowing Big Brother-type intelligence organisation of Cardassia. Garak's lapses into fury and pain lead him to reveal to Bashir several reasons that explain why he was exiled. Though he dissembles and changes his story so many times, it's impossible for Bashir, and by extension us, to know what's a lie and what's the truth. Eventually, Bashir goes to the retired Emergence, the former head of the Obsidian Order, for answers to Garak's condition, and finds some interesting insights about Garak in the process. There's a lot of interesting substance about Garak and the Cardassian mentality in this story, though it's hard to know exactly what to make of it. But that's the point. Some puzzles are supposed to remain unsolved, and Garak in Emergence, in his showcase scene, are a fascinating puzzle to watch unfold. The last vestiges of cheesy have been ripped from the show, and we get this, the birth point of good Deep Space Nine, with the golden age of the show starting around now. Now, according to Memory Alpha, although the producers weren't exactly happy with this episode, how this episode turned out, they were disappointed to discover that many fans felt let down because they hadn't learned anything new about Garak. And then he quotes the especially the lies bit. That's so Garak, and that is the truth. The actual truth is only a matter of perspective. What matters in this episode are the details, which Garak keeps imploring Bashir, and by extension us, to pay attention to. In 2 weeks, hello, evil, sexy Kira. Oh, are we looking forward to that, are we?
Oh no, Mirror Universe.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have to worry, I'm covering that one. Anyway, let's get ahead of ourselves. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We also heard from Doreen.
And Doreen writes, well done, Bashir, preventing yet another suicide. Because it's a bit of a problem, isn't it, suicide on Next Gen Deep Space Nine at this point. Garak tries to rewrite his life history. He actually acted honourably, but he wishes he followed his orders without questioning them. Has he been so brainwashed by the Cardassians' military culture?
Say nothing.
Bashir and Odo standoff. Cue classic Trek fight music. Bashir gets a lot of his answers when Garak is in withdrawal. Careful what you wish for, Julian, or maybe not. Interesting, we get another truth after the angrily shouted one. Julian's middle name is very fun.
It is odd, yes.
Sabutio is a funny middle name. The scriptwriters of DS9 are good at making characters throw others' words back at them. This is true. Thank you!
Okay. Then, in terms of MP3 feedback, in a slight departure from usual, we've had some feedback from our daughter. We're not going to make a habit of this, but basically, completely spontaneously, once the episode finished, she came out with this awesome rant. I do suggest you turn the volume down slightly, because, yeah. So what did you think of that episode?
Well, it was actually shorter than the actual episode. So I was like, oh, what, is this it? It's too short. And all it is about a walking stone weird guy who just like has a cactus in his head and he just like he's like I'm telling lies and then like all he's doing, he's got this like plastic computer thing that goes beep beep like a freaking bomb. What's wrong with this episode, people? Change it, please. I beg you.
Do you think she takes after me? Are you going to have warning, incoming Leah rant?
Possibly. Guy. But I think she was expecting a movie length something. And so it caught her out that it was short as it was. But obviously that end, in many ways, kind of nicely reflects the initial reported feedback from Trek fans when it first broadcast. That, what, that's it? We haven't actually learnt anything?
Yeah.
It's just loads of lies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a walking stone telling lies with computers.
And a cactus in his head. Apparently, I don't know quite how that happened. You confused the cactus at the start with what was inside Garak's head.
I think so. I think so. The plastic computers that go beep beep.
Oh, good stuff. Splendid. Shall we find out? I suspect that Purry will have a slightly more measured response to this episode.
I think so, yes.
Hello, Orgs. Purry here to talk about The Wire. Now, this is one of the things that often out sci-fi fans when they maybe haven't told their work. My example is always when people ask you, what do you think of the Kardashians? And I say, not after what they did to Bajor, I don't like them much. And people look at you strangely. Similarly, someone says to me, what do you think of The Wire? And I go, oh, that's that rather good Deep Space Nine episode with Garak and the thing in his head. And everyone looks at you strangely, talking about some sort of police show or something. I don't know. But no, this is a really cracking episode. Considering that we've not seen that much of Garak when we think about it, the makers obviously knew that they had a good thing in their hands. For one thing, Andrew Robinson turns in an absolutely sterling performance, and we get so many things punted in here that are going to expand out later, particularly world building in the Cardassians. We hear about the Obsidian Order, a bit more about the occupation. I loved Garak retelling the stories of the various sort of origin stories of why he was exiled. It did remind me a bit of, I think there's a Joker story in Batman, or indeed there's a hint with the Joker that he always tells a different story about how he came to be, and that there's no one set origin for him, which I thought was quite neat. Also, the episode made Bashir quite likeable. I think Bashir, for being the smug cheese wanker he was in the sort of first series, he's beginning to come out. For starters, he does sit in and really help out Garak, including the rather nice scene in the bar where he's kind of juggling the bottle between them, sort of between him and Quark. I thought that was quite fun, and it does seem to go out for all that. Garak hasn't given him a huge amount. He's actually, to sort of reason to like him, he is still sort of helping out and talking with him. Particularly, he's also been exploring Cardassian culture. He's been borrowing books from Garak, trying to understand. And I like this idea that cultures can be culturally different enough that the story, that reading a Cardassian book might seem really odd to a human, whereas a Cardassian might read a human book and think, God, this is really weird as well. But it also does give us little insights into Cardassian culture. And indeed, I think when we get a bit further into the series, having a good comparison between Garak and Gul Dukat is interesting, because they are both Cardassian patriots, and they're both very pro the current system, but they're obviously in very different places right about now. The other thing I liked, as I say, aside from hearing the introduction of the Obsidian Order, was the introduction of an Aberon Tain, ex-ruler of the Obsidian Order. And when Bashir goes to visit him, he's only in a small scene, but he has a lot of presence. And I don't think this is just my future knowledge that he will turn up again, at least once coming in. He does seem like a dangerous man. It's not just the way he knows everything, including Bashir's most hated secret, his middle name. It's also just Tain really seems to sort of exude the fact that, yeah, I'm retired and I'm sitting in my little retirement home somewhere, but don't get me wrong, I could have you bumped off if I thought about it. And the fact that maybe it is because of, he says, oh, don't worry, Doctor, I had already told the fleets to kind of avoid you, that's why you got in so easily, kind of thing. I thought he really did come across as a very dangerous and well-rounded character. And indeed his thing of save Garak, because a quick death's too easy for him. I want him to live with the torture on Deep Space Nine. And indeed it's quite harsh on Bashir to think that sitting eating dinner with him has required Garak to overdose on basically endorphins. So yes, overall it was a really interesting episode. And like I say, standout is the performance with Andrew J. Robinson. Notably, the episode also didn't really have a B-plot. It was all Bashir and Garak, and not a two-hander by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely for the most part it was Bashir investigating Garak, and Garak going through effectively his DTs, going cold turkey, and I think that was really quite powerful stuff. And I mean, considering the guy doesn't even have his name in the opening credits, that's a hell of a lot of work to give someone who's technically at this point not part of the main cast. So yeah, overall a cracking episode, and really showing some of the stuff that we do grow to expect from Deep Space Nine. So I'll be back in a minute to see if Bloodlines, an episode following up something from Next Gen, gives us the same impression. Until then, bye for now.
Thank you, sir. Bye. I've forgotten there was another wire. Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's the Killing Joke with the different, where the Joker talks about having different origin stories, and sometimes he prefers one and sometimes he prefers the other. Classic Brian Bollard illustrated story. Fantastic.
Doesn't
stuff.
Heath Ledger's Joker do the same?
Yes, borrowing from the Killing Joke. Yeah, Alan Moore, I think. It's
interesting. Harry mentions that he's right. It is a lot of work to give someone who's not named in the opening credits. Does he and Mark Alamo get named in the opening credits later on?
I honestly can't remember, because they appear a lot more regularly.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure they ever become technically regulars. I think that's one of the lovely things about Deep Space Nine, is that there's sort of this acting troupe that they draw from on a quite a regular basis, but they're still not show regulars, so not in every single episode. So
no, it's just that my understanding is that it's one of those things that originally Garak and Gul Dukat were not going to, if not necessarily not ever going to come back, they weren't originally envisaged as being proper recurring characters in the way that they are, but the actors were so good that they then wrote more episodes with them in. So I just wondered whether once the showrunners had made the decision to deliberately write them in, or whether their names did appear. But
I'm not sure they do, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And I agree that even though you only see him in the one scene, Tane looks like a dangerous man. I mean, at the end of the day, he knows all this stuff.
Despite the cardigan.
Well, he knows all this stuff, right? And he's retired from the Obsidian Order. Not died, retired. So he's got to be dangerous if he's managed to retire and still be alive.
Yes, but whether he has retired is another question.
No, but, you know, he's still alive, and he wears a granddad cardigan, so he's got to be fairly old.
Yes.
I mean, I've got no idea of Cardassian lifespans, but he's wearing a granddad cardigan.
Okay, let's find out what Drew and Tracy made of this.
Hello guys, this is our feedback for Deep Space Nine episode The Wire. Quark was really funny in this episode. You didn't see very much of him, but he did make me giggle when he was talking to the Cardassian and he gave him the requisition number and he was like, "Wah!"
When that red light was flashing on the Cardassian's face, definitely.
Yeah, I do like Quark. I think he's probably one of my favourite characters.
Oh yeah, they're all good.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this. It was good to see... well, I kind of wrote down as I was it's good to see Garak in the opening sequence for this, not knowing that the whole episode was going to be about him. But I actually liked the fact that he was in normal gear. He wasn't in like his Pinocchio clothes almost. There was no outlandish colours and stuff like that. So that's what I kind of wrote. But
this was a Garak episode.
Yeah, definitely. But I didn't know that at the start.
And so it was an excellent episode.
I really enjoyed this.
I would say, up till now, this is the best episode that I've seen of Deep Space Nine.
Totally.
It was brilliant.
This kind of opened my eyes to the real Garak, because all I've ever known him is the happy little tailor. And this showed me a real different side to him. Actually, you know, he's a proper hardcore Cardassian in this, and I thought that was a real good insight for me.
It was like an onion with the layers being stripped off of him, wasn't it? Every time he told a story, it was something different.
We did, in the breaks, kind of go, ooh, which one do we believe? And I was like, I believe the second story. And then it kind of unravelled a little bit more.
He's a complex character.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, I really think Bashir is excellent in this. If you remember back to the first season where just everyone was just saying he's acting like an idiot now, he's a completely different character now. I mean, he's well acted and a good character. He was excellent in this Bashir.
Yeah, I mean, we've given feedback before where I've absolutely slated Bashir because he's just absolutely got on my tits throughout the whole episode. But he's really coming into his own now. He's really starting to act well. He's showing a lot of empathy as a doctor, and he's really kind of, finding his feet.
The whole thing was excellent.
So yeah, I thought the whole of them were good. Very fleeting episode, fleeting touches from Miles and Cisco.
Yep.
From the other main characters.
Yeah.
Because they're all in it for like 2 seconds. But, this was a very...
it was a Garak and
Bashir based episode. And I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
I loved every minute of it. It's one of these kind of episodes where you just don't want it to end. No. It was brilliant.
We normally sit and write notes throughout the whole episode, but actually I was watching rather than doing notes. So...
And if I can say as well, the Obsidian Order has come into it, right, and Garak seems to be part of it. It's just excellent.
Say it what you like. I have no idea what you're on about. Wow. So, it'll come, I'm sure.
Yep.
But no, I thought this was a cracker.
Yep, I did as well.
Really enjoyed this.
Oh, we can't carry on saying
no,
we
can't.
It,
yeah. For us, it was a very good episode. Let's hope there are more like this to come. Because if there is, very exciting.
It's going to be good.
Absolutely. Hope you enjoyed it too, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I'm glad you found it a Christmas cracker. Splendid. Didn't want it to end. That's lovely, isn't it? Yeah. Splendid.
Yeah.
Much more like this to come, guys. So.
There is a lot more like this to come, but I still think this is one of the best episodes of Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the best, but I would put it in my top 5.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting. Such early days as well. It certainly sticks in the memory, I think, because obviously later on you do find more about Garak, whereas when you first see this episode, it's such... not out of left field, but it's so weird the way he's constantly throwing out different stories all the time. It sort of hits you more, I think, in the first viewing than it perhaps does on later reviews, because you've learnt a bit more solid stuff about his character later on. But anyway,
I just find I appreciate it in a different way, which is why it remains one of my favourites.
Mm-hmm. And there's that whole thing about Bashir coming of age to an extent. I mean, he's developed this now 2-year friendship with Garak, so we're seeing a different side to him just as a result of him being around for a bit longer and a bit more stable, basically.
Yeah. And Tane is, not in it very long, but he's menacing, and you get so many ideas. The idea that in order to be entrusted with secrets, you give somebody an anti-torture device, and it's just, for me, it is, even though it doesn't have the same impact on repeated viewings as it does the first time around, it's still in my top 5 episodes.
Right. Okay, let's find out what the Argyle Smurf made of this one.
Good evening, the Orgses and the everybody else. This is Damien the Argyle Smurf, and I am here to talk at you about The Wire. And excuse the clogged nose and snuffliness, I do feel quite minging. And, more so than usual, that is. And if anyone remembers any feedbacks from me before, you'll know that my opinion of an episode tends to stand and fall based on how I'm feeling, far more than whether the episode is actually any good. So it will surprise everybody, including myself, to tell you that I absolutely bloody loved this episode. Despite the fact I feel like I died 20 minutes ago and haven't caught on the fact. Proper man flu here. It was brilliant. I loved every minute of it. And pretty much there's 2 words to describe why that is, and those words are Andrew Robinson. Because knocked it out of the park doesn't begin to cover his acting ability. It's terrifying how good he is. I would love to see him, Sir Patrick Stewart, and the dear departed Andreas Katsoulis in a room, in an improv, just going at it, because it would be so much fun to watch those 3 try and out-act each other. And I think the world would end. I think that would be it. Whatever supreme being there may be, your mileage may vary, would just look down and go, you know what, it's not going to get any better than that. Anyway, the episode. I'm not going to bother giving you a blow-by-blow because, Orgses, you'll have done that already and you'll have done it far better than I ever could. So, I'll bring out some highlights from my own personal things. Really, the episode itself is a, addiction and withdrawal episode, which could have been awful with the wrong leads or in the wrong TV series to begin with. It could have been dreadful. And it's just the fact that it's Garak and Bashir, and it's the fact that it's Alexander Siddig and Andrew Robinson that keep this episode running. And it doesn't just survive, it thrives because it's that good, because they're that good. It starts with Garak just being a bloke. Oh, I'm not ill, I'm fine, I'm not going to go see a doctor. Thud. Right, okay. Bashir fires out a good old McCoyism. I'm a doctor, not a botanist. Drink. We find out that Sisko likes to scream and yell at admirals, and gets away with it would appear. Well, he doesn't yell at admirals, he expresses his opinion in a forceful and loud manner. Kanar. Here's one for you. I'm sure you'll have picked up on this. I understand that, drinks change, designations of drinks change, continuity can't be perfect unless you're called Straczynski. So, really, there's going to be these issues. But Kanar was black and sludgy in the last episode. So how is it now blue? How is it now synthale? Synthale. I forget which one's which. But, not Kanar. And if it had been last season, you'd go, alright, these things happen. But it was last episode that Ducat was drinking the big, thick, sludgy Kanar. And again, I think it's going to change style, substance, and colour again. Several times, actually, as I remember it. But yeah, just a little bugbear. Why is it blue? Why not just put it in a non-see-through glass? That would be the easiest way of doing it. Then you don't have to argue about what colour it is. Quark gets off a magnificent panicky scream in saying, "What did I do?" And when matey boy the Cardassian's desktop crashes, or whatever it is that happens to him, the thought police come and get him. I love the way that he's able of carrying that Ferengi panicky scream. I think he invented it, to be honest with you, but it's very, very good. And you've got one of the best lines of the season, or pair of lines of the season. Has anyone ever told you that you're an infuriating pest? Chief O'Brien, all the time, and I don't listen to him either. Lovely. Another quick question. Just, again, one of those things that might not have been picked up. I'm sure it has. I have complete faith. But Garak complained when he was talking about how much he hates life on DS9, now that it's not Terra Nor anymore. He said that it's too cold, and he said it's too bright. So why, when he is convalescing and Bashir is looking over him in the slash fiction-tastic scene in which it shows the passing of time, is he lying in the middle of the room under intense white light? This doesn't seem like an intelligent idea to me, considering he's already mentioned it in this episode, but he doesn't like it. But yeah, apart from that, like I say, loved it. It kept me going, and that's all you could possibly hope for from 45 minutes of entertainment, to be entertained. And I absolutely fucking was. Loved it. I will be back in a fortnight to talk to you about whatever the hell's coming up next. And I hope you tolerate whatever TNG episode you're about to do. Good luck. I will say that I would be feeding back on TNG episodes did I own them, but I don't really have any desire to purchase them, and Netflix is fail. So, no. I would have done the battle with you, though, because I love the battle. Not so much on the queue, but the battle, yes. Anyway, I'm waffling and I'm over time, and, my pillow is calling me. So have a good night, enjoy yourselves, and I hope it's got in under the wire again. Speak to you soon, guys. Cheery, bye.
Bye! Oh, I hope you're feeling better soon, chap.
Yeah, get well soon.
Yes. Well, Andrew Robinson is fantastic. There's no two ways about it, and he really does make the story with superb stuff.
Makes me wonder whether Sid... Is he upping his game in Robinson's presence in the
Possibly.
same way as we've seen some people do in Patrick Stewart's presence?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. We do see Kanara of different colours, and let's face it, you can get red or white or even pink wine. And sometimes it's bubbly, and so therefore it isn't necessarily a problem that we have different colours and consistencies of Kanara. For me, anyway, it didn't bother me.
Did we see the consistency? I thought we only saw the colour, so it could still have been sludgy.
No, I'm not sure. Do you mean, did we see the consistency in this episode?
Time?
No, it's only blue in the glass, isn't it?
So it could be blue and sludgy.
It could be blue and sludgy for all we know, although quite why you'd want to drink sludgy drink, I don't know. But apparently Cardassians
Makes me think of, slushies.
Yes.
Alcoholic slushy.
Uh-huh. But you're right, the overlit room, considering it is Garak's room as well, makes no sense at all. Like, that's the only bugbear I have of this story as well.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't fit with Bashir's character in terms of attention to detail and care for his patient.
And professionalism,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Righty. Well, you mentioned the Next Generation episode.
What we doing?
I really wouldn't worry too much about rushing out and buying Season 7 from our experience.
No.
Considering we're nearly at the end now, and literally there is only one episode worth owning, as far as I'm concerned thus far. Well, will tonight's episode prove a different story, though, as we cover Bloodlines, very much the sequel to The Battle.
An act of revenge. I'm going to kill your son, Picard, just like you killed mine. Uncovers the son Picard never knew.
I hope it will give us a chance to get to know each other.
But can they heal old wounds?
Father, Jean-Luc, I don't know what I'm supposed to call you.
Before an enemy settles a deadly score. I demand that you repay me for my loss.
No.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
So then, Bloodlines. The trailer's okay. Doesn't give away anything particularly.
No.
A probe is approaching the Enterprise.
Now it's time to get anal about probes. What? No! Ooh!
This was originally Rogar Danar. Remember Rogar Danar from The Hunted, Season 3? Super soldier guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was inside it. It was a different colour then. It's been changed colour to sort of orangey brown colour to reflect the Ferengi palette. And apparently the prop was originally an underground sprinkler sleeve.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, the probe hails Picard by name, projecting a holographic image of Bok, the Ferengi from the battle. Except he's not played by the same guy, rather disappointedly.
Come on, tell me who are you? 'Cause I really wanna know.
It's Lee Arenberg this time, who previously was in the Nagus as Graal, and is almost, I suppose his most famous role is in Pirates of the Caribbean as Pintle, the bold dude, one of the undead pirates. Okay. Hangs around with Mackenzie Crook.
Okay.
No, don't remember Pirates of the Caribbean?
Not well enough, apart from key characters, like the woman whose character's name I don't remember, but she's a bit bonkers and a bit voodoo.
Okay. Anyways, quite how this works without holo emitters on the bridge, I do not know. It seems a bit odd. Presumably it's somehow broadcasting from the probe, I don't know, but it's all very odd. Bok threatens to kill Picard's son, Jason Vigo. Cue extreme close-up. It's all rather Dallas, really.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Dallas, stroke, Home and Away, stroke. It's just soap opera territory, this, isn't it? Picard gets data to search through the records for something on a child of Miranda Vigo. Now, interesting, there is a Vigo on the Stargazer. He
we had that last time, didn't we?
The weapons officer, but whether this is the same person is not clear, but presumably it must be. Picard gets Riker to contact the Ferengi government to find out how Bok has regained his rank of Daemon.
I like this, though, because you find out he bought his way out of prison. I love the idea that Ferengi society, because
very
it's all,
Ferengi.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
You can buy. I love that.
Yes.
I mean, it's not morally right, but it's very Ferengi.
Originally,
isn't it?
apparently, he was going to say he paid his debt to society, which is kind of again, it's a nice touch.
I like it. Yeah.
Anyway, the government won't be getting back to him anytime soon because they're currently debating an amendment to the rules of acquisition, which is their first mention in Next Generation.
I like it.
He also passes on a picture of Jason Vigo, who is now 23. They set a course for Vigo's last known location, K-More 5. So we have an entire Galaxy-class starship rerouted because of one human under threat. Does that seem reasonable?
It does if they weren't on a prior priority mission.
Or there wasn't another ship nearby.
Either way, both cases it's all right. Because if their main thing that they're doing is science, let's say when they're not on a specific either diplomatic or medical or otherwise priority mission, if what they're doing is science, like stellar cartography or something, you can understand that someone's life is going to take priority over stellar cartography.
Picard admits there is a possibility Jason is his son. Clearly 24th century birth control is no better than ours, unless Miranda wanted a child and didn't tell Picard.
Yeah, I went to a bit of a Big Lebowski place on this
Yes!
Was that yoga?
It increases the chances of conception.
Increases?
Well, yes. What did you think this was all about? Fun and games? I want a child.
Okay, but let me explain something about the dude.
Look, Jeffrey, I don't want a partner. In fact, I don't want the father to be someone I have to see socially or who will have any interest in raising the child himself.
See, in my head now, Miranda Vigo, who we never meet, is played by Julianne Moore.
Yeah. Excellent.
We're doing it again, aren't we?
Yeah,
We're
are.
Yeah,
everything comes back to Lebowski.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's where my brain went. At this point, my mind changes later because I feel it gets more judgmental later. But at this point, there's no sense of judgment on someone choosing to have a child on their own.
No, Picard basically goes, that's the sort of thing she'd probably do, actually. She's very independent. And
it's not said in a judgmental way or critical or anything, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, they locate a male human 2 kilometres beneath the planet's surface, and there's seismic instability in the area, so they beam him aboard mid-climb, which is a nice touch. So rather than just beaming, with 2 feet on the ground, he's actually, crouched up, which is nice. And we're introduced to Jason Vigo, played by Ken Orlant. who appeared in the A-Team and Airwolf. He's your typical cheesy-looking 80s hero as well.
Sorry, I'm humming the Airwolf tune.
He looks like a sort of young Kevin Bacon, which isn't a good look, to be honest. Oh, he's not a bad actor, but it's hard to feel much for him since he's clearly not going to last more than an episode.
Yeah.
If this was Deep Space Nine, maybe. Not Next Generation.
No.
Apparently he was spelunking, which is a lovely word. I love the word spelunking.
Yes.
Picard fills him in, including his potential parentage, which Jason is unaware of. And Miranda apparently died a few years ago. He agrees to a DNA test, and Crusher readies the set of Jeremy Kyle. Beverly gives the results with the most dramatic pause possible. Picard is the dad. Captain bores his son with his archaeology collection. Clearly they have nothing in common. He wants to return to the planet, but Picard advises against it due to Bock. Meanwhile, Geordi and Data have been doing some detective work and techno-babbling away to find out where the probe was sent from to try and trace Bock. They get a hail from Damon Berta. Damon Berta? Really? That's a name?
Oh no, my brain has gone to that horrible children's TV show Bertha.
Yeah, well, it's not horrible. It was alright.
Bertha, lovely Bertha, you are a lovely machine, and anyone who works with you will know just what I mean. Whoa, Bertha, lovely Bertha, sometimes I think you're a dream. When we work out what you have to do, you can always turn the goods out, always turn the goods out. We can depend upon you.
No, it's got to be cheesy.
Lovely tune, though. He's played by Peter Slutsker.
Slutsker?
Yes, quite. Who was previously Nybor, who challenged Riker to a game of 3D chess in Menage a Troy. And a slightly more prominent role, Dr. Rager in the Ferengi
I know
Scientists
that
in
one.
Suspicions.
The Shields thing.
That's right, yes. Clearly there weren't that many short actors in Hollywood at the time, because we just get the same guys recycled, don't we? He informs Picard that Bock bought himself out of prison, as we mentioned earlier, and he gives them enough information to be able to trace him. Picard goes to talk to Beverly about being a parent, complaining Jason has put up too many barriers to get to know him. He suggests letting Jason come to him if he wants to build a relationship, but Crusher questions whether this is for Jason's or Picard's benefit. Hum-ho.
I don't like this, because it's like, you get this in a later scene as well, all about what he must have done because he didn't have a dad and whatever, and I just think, oh, fuck off, because Miranda clearly, whoever the father is, decided that she was raising her son on her own, so he wouldn't have been raised in a way that made him think that his father was bad or he was missing a dad or any of that. He would have been, because it was planned that way, he would have been raised that, he had a father, but it doesn't really matter. I'm your mum, that's what does matter. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just, I just really resent the idea that single parent families are always wrong. And that's the message you're starting to get. And as the episode goes on, and he talks about how he went off the rails as a teenager and all of that, it just makes me really angry.
Troy goes to see Jason in her only scene of the episode, and he hits on her.
Oh, fucking cheesewank.
He's from the school of Riker, clearly. Not the most subtle of scenes, is it?
It's just horrible, and it really reminds me of that, what was his name, Devin O'Neal or whatever. You kind of expect him to offer to massage her feet, or it's just,
Bock appears in Picard's room and wakes him up with a threat before disappearing, which I suppose is vaguely spooky thanks to the lighting, but Worf points out that the shields were up, so Bock couldn't have beamed through them, so he wasn't physically present. They dismiss the possibility of a hologram, as there's no emitters in Picard's room. Again, kind of begs the question of how he appeared on the bridge. There are only these Bock's mind control devices. There's no record of the carrier wave he used before, though. In Temp Forward, Jason puts his moves on Lieutenant Rhodes, one of the security personnel assigned to him. Gets them to back off a bit. Then he gets a case of the shakes. Picard arrives and tries to make a connection, but Jason makes it clear he doesn't want to bond with him.
Because, like I said, if he was raised by his mum, who'd made that as a deliberate choice, then he doesn't have a hole that needs filling, which Picard and Crusher seem to think is the case. So why would he particularly want to bond necessarily?
Worf detects another probe, which had been cloaked until approaching the ship, so it's all high-tech stuff, this, isn't it? It does explode, but they raised the shields in time. Passed on a message, my revenge is at hand. Why doesn't he do something, Picard asks. We all agree, because it's really slow up to this point. Bok appears in the ready room this time. Apparently he's decided to get repayment for the loss of his son's life by killing Jason. There are an awful lot of threats, but again, it's just a sense of just get on with it. Crusher is called to a medical emergency. Jason is unconscious on the floor of his quarters with the shakes again. Back in sickbay, he's come to and said he's had the shakes for about 6 months. The doctor says that he has a rare degenerative neurological disorder, which he may be able to treat. It's hereditary, but neither of his parents has it, and it can be triggered by a cellular mutation. Bizarrely, Picard says Crusher was right about him not wanting to reach out to Jason, despite the fact that his last scene with him had his son basically telling him to take a running jump, so that didn't work. He also shares regret with Crusher that he hadn't been part of Jason's life, as he may not have ended up falling into crime then.
That's just such a fucking cliche, isn't it?
Yes. No dad, he must be a criminal. Yeah.
It's just like, plenty of people don't have a dad and don't end up in crime.
Likewise, plenty of people with parents end
up in crime. I'm sorry, but correlation does not equal causality, and I'm not even convinced there's a fucking correlation in the first place.
She tells him to be patient. Geordi and Data have discovered that Bok is using a subspace transporter to beam aboard the Enterprise. Apparently it's a long-range technology which is unreliable and unstable. Which reminded me of something, and I can't think what now.
The wormhole one?
Yeah, the one with the terrorists in Season 3, where they used an unstable transporter device that was over a long range, didn't they? And they kidnapped Crusher. It was that really crap one. It's the one before the Hunted. Can't remember the name of it now. Don't care. Anyway, the bottom line is they can't stop Bok beaming aboard, but they might be able to trace his signal, and Picard is worried that he'll use the system to beam Jason away. Geordi suggests they maintain a signal lock on him to hold him on the Enterprise, which is a clever idea, but something that clearly they don't do.
Why don't they do that anyway?
Stupid.
Because you get the whole sort of somebody's randomly not on the ship anymore, oh shit, we should have kept an eye on it. Why isn't it the case that key crew members have a signal lock on them at all times until such time as they're choosing to go away on a mission? Wouldn't that not be sensible?
Picard locates Jason in the holodeck, so naturally he interrupts him, because that's all anybody ever does in the holodeck.
I know, I'm just like, no!
Thankfully he's just climbing rocks rather than getting his rocks off, because that would have been really embarrassing. Dad!
Yeah.
Picard gives it a go, climbing the rocks that is, and joins him at the top for now. Clearly it is a studio, this is not a proper rock face.
Doesn't look remotely like one.
Sort of echoes of Star Trek V here, but with a lot less budget. Jason thanks his father for taking the trouble of climbing the rock to tell him the latest about Bok, which is a nice touch, I suppose. Captain asks about how Miranda came to Kamor, and Jason explains it was to help orphans from the Cardassian War. She was apparently killed for the food she was carrying for them. Picard makes reference to his estrangement from his own father, so it ties in with brothers nicely, saying he doesn't want to end up that way with Jason, despite his son's troubles with the authorities. He makes an amusing comment about Jason never looking at his hairline in the same way, which is about the best line in the entire story by far. And that might have been a strong scene if you'd have thought there was any chance that Jason would still be Picard's son by the end of the episode, but that's not going to happen. And funnily enough, Crusher calls Picard into sickbay to tell him something significant about Jason. I wonder, what could it be? On the bridge. And now it's time for... Who's at the... I don't know whether we've mentioned her before. She's quite a sort of regular con officer for Season 7. Fumiko Hamada is the actress, but unfortunately her character never gets a name. They detect that Bok is trying to use his transport to take Jason off the Enterprise. They try and stop him, but fail. Oh, well done on that transporter lock then. Yeah. Another probe appears, showing Jason tied up on Bok's ship and being threatened by the world's crappiest little knife. Really?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
There was a cutscene at this point where Jason tries to talk Bok out of hurting him, which is meh. Don't miss that particularly. But then That's true of most of the episode. Data locates Bok's ship, and Picard suggests transporting himself via subspace, with all the risk that entails. Geordi says they won't be able to get him back necessarily. We see the usual Ferengi control sphere on Bok's ship, which is a nice bit of continuity of design. Picard beams aboard and says he knows that Jason is not his son, and the Bok's tampering with his DNA has caused the neurological disorder. Oh, what a surprise. We get a new Ferengi actor, presumably Bok's first officer. Played by Michael Sisti.
So he's not Kazoo then?
No, he's Toll, apparently. He was in the Babylon 5 episode of Voice in the Wilderness Part 2 as Takan. Yeah. Do you remember who Takan was?
I'm guessing Anan?
No, don't think so. He was some random alien dude.
Right.
Yeah, I looked on the Babylon 5 version of Memory Alpha and I was still none the wiser, but anyway.
Okay.
He was also Michelangelo in the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And he's a puppeteer who's worked on Men in Black 2, Team America, and currently working on the Muppets TV series, and also has worked on the recent films as well. Picard points out to Toll that Bok was never interested in ransom, just wanted revenge. Also, he's not a daemon, he's a very naughty boy. Predictably, the crew turn against their unprofitable commander, which is just exactly what happened in the battle, was it not? But there we go. They drop Jason off at Kamel 5. Bizarrely, Picard gives him one of the archaeological items he wasn't interested in before. So that's a really cool present then.
Yeah.
And we get a sad face close-up on Picard. Yes, it's all very meh. The idea doesn't work out any better when they use it for Nemesis either, but that's another story.
I mean, this whole thing would have worked if the plot was pretty much the same, but he was actually Picard's son.
That would have had a lot more impact, wouldn't it?
So,
but Next Generation never made bold moves like that, did it?
Because
reset button.
Yeah, but you could still have ostensibly the same plot, including his son saying, "No, I've learnt from you. I'm going to go back to Kamel 5 and face the consequences there." And because he says something about, he's going to try and deal with things, even though his life is a mess. You could still have that line. You could still have him have him leave. And that the story end, and he doesn't ever come back again. You could still do all of that.
It would have been apparently originally Picard and Jason would have expressed regret that they weren't actually family, which would at least have had some emotional impact, but we don't even get that. And the whole idea was then that was going to feed into Picard's melancholy in Generations, which, at least say it would have had some noticeable effect on Picard's character, as it was, as per usual. Reset button.
Yeah, but it's not even fucking necessary to have the reset button. You could have him be Picard's son.
No, but they've got to do it because it's Next Generation.
No, they haven't.
That's what they always do. They can't have any change in the characters whatsoever.
Oh, it's just... it's just ridiculous because, you could still, even though I don't like the movie and would rather not watch it because it ruins Star Trek 6 and actually isn't good anyway, you could still have the plot of Generations if Vigo had died in a spelunking accident. Couldn't you?
Yeah, that would have been nicer, actually. Yeah.
So it doesn't ruin anything. So why can't it be that actually he is his son?
Another original plan was to have Bok using the Ferengi mind control balls to make Picard think he deserted Vigo as an infant on the Stargazer, which would have been pretty dark.
Yeah. I can understand why they didn't go there, because, Deep Space Nine is dark, but Next Gen isn't.
The whole episode came about as a result of Stewart saying during the filming of Masks, that classic episode, that he'd wished there'd been some follow-up to the battle. Now we kind of wish he hadn't.
Well, no, it's not necessarily his fault, because it could have been a good episode if the guy was actually his son.
Ronald D. Moore was critical of the episode, comparing it unfavourably with Suddenly Human. Joe, no.
Yeah.
Fair point. That wasn't a great episode either, but it packed much more of a punch than this does.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. And some people have criticised the episode on the basis it's reminiscent of Kirk's relationship with David. But
Yeah, I thought that at the time.
yeah, it's nowhere near that strength of passion and interest.
No.
And the difference there is David always knew that Kirk was his dad,
Yeah.
so reacts badly against him. Whereas here, you don't even get that because Jason didn't know who his dad was.
No.
Yeah.
No, and but I did think about Kirk and David at the time, watching it, but
Yeah.
just no.
Just no. Like much of season 7, just no.
Just no. I mean, it's just why?
Why?
Fuck off.
Okay. If you'd like to let us know what the mark thought of this classic episode.
And the Mark writes, Bloodlines, or season 7 Family Tree Theatre hits critical bullshit levels, or the Wrath of Bok. I've used the term Family Tree Theatre a lot this year, and here it's hit a level of pure bullshit. I can't disagree. The Mark says, so Picard receives a threatening message from Bok, who says he'll have his revenge upon Picard by finding and killing Picard's son. Except, wait, Picard doesn't have a son. Or does he?
No, he doesn't.
I found the scenes between Jason and Picard okay, but I suppose Patrick Stewart can carry almost any script to make it seem solid at least.
They were alright, but yeah, again, you just knew they were going to press the reset button.
The problem with Bloodlines is, of course, its completely fucking implausible plot surrounding Bok's convoluted plan for vengeance. If you think about it at all, it makes not a jot of sense. Especially once it's revealed that Picard's paternity was faked by Bok himself, who manipulated Jason's DNA in order to concoct the vengeance upon the child scenario in the first place. I'm not an expert when it comes to blood for blood revenge, but somehow the idea of staging the creation of your enemy's son, then threatening to kill him, and then killing him, which Bok fails at, by the way, but let's suppose he had succeeded, seems like a really roundabout and, well, stupidly ineffective way of achieving a satisfying revenge.
Yeah. I've got revenge on you by killing your son that I know isn't actually your son. Hang on.
I know. And the Mark says, I'm going to make you think you have a kid and then kill him. Also, with the free sex attitude of the Trekkian future, you'd think they'd have come up with some sort of solid birth control to protect yourself in these casual encounters. Picard appears to have dodged a bullet, but a little safe sex would have prevented this ruse. Yeah. And that's a thought. How the fuck did Damon Bok not know that contraception wasn't used? Because there is an episode, I'm not going to name it, I'm not going to go into details, but it's in Deep Space Nine later on where it's very clear that men can take hormonal contraceptives. So, how did Bok know that Picard didn't?
Oh. Oof. Reasons. Carry on.
Sorry.
Don't
Anyway.
care.
No, it adds to why this is shit, is the point. And the Mark continues, in fact, wow, this has to be one of the most contrived setups I've ever seen in Trek. Let's examine Bok's plan here. For it to work, 1. Bok must discover if a woman Picard had been with later had a kid. 2. That kid would have had to have been born almost immediately after the breakup. 3. Picard has to have no knowledge of this child. 4. The woman in question has to have never told her child about his father. 5. Said woman must now be dead to avoid having her destroy the plan just by saying,
Yeah, it's not
you're
yours."
not the father. 6. Bok must then locate this child. 7. Bok must then, somehow, clandestinely alter his DNA without him being aware of it. 8. Bok must then acquire super advanced and hard to find and use technology, the subspace transporter. 9. Bok must then somehow convince a Ferengi crew that he's a daemon in good standing. 10. Bok must then lie to them about a possible ransom in order to ensure their cooperation. 11. Finally, Bock must go through all the motions of putting Picard in fear and then kidnapping his son off the Enterprise. Not only is that one truly and needlessly convoluted plan, but why does Bock go through all of this rigmarole in the first place? If his plan is to finally get revenge on Picard, why isn't he just trying to kill Picard again? Once he has the subspace transporter, he could easily transport Picard off the Enterprise virtually at will and murder him, like subspace transports Picard into a bloody star. And at this point, you have to wonder if the Ferengi crew were just deaf or stupid. For some reason, they were still expecting ransom money after Bock made it clear that he wanted Picard to see his dead son's corpse. And after they worked this out, it plays out like battle. Really. Bloodlines contains this plot only because it has to have something for the audience to latch onto besides some character moments that can't carry the hour on their own, while building in a reset that undoes the notion of Picard actually having a son. The whole thing plays like a compromise. The final showdown between Bock and Picard has no juice and lots of exposition. Because Bock is so massively strategically outmatched and pathetic, it's hard to picture any legitimate menace here at all. Here are a bunch of 7 villains who deserved a last hurrah way more than Bock. Number 1, the conspiracy bugs. Naturally. Both as a year one bookend and a big exposed hole in Trek history. 2, Sailor Yar. Her story was not finished at all.
No. Not bothered about her, but carry on. 3,
yeah, but he's saying more worthy than Bock.
Yeah, arguably, yeah.
3, Kivas Farjo. Plug him into the spec script for Gambit and he's automatically more interesting than plain old pirates. 4, Ardra. Regardless of merit, Devil's Due was the highest rated TNG episode to date.
Oh, it's awful though.
That's supposed to guarantee a sequel.
No. Didn't want it back.
The Nanites. 4+ years after Picard casually deposited them on a planet, they could have evolved superpowers like Voyager's drone.
Okay.
6, the Ulmax prisoners. All it would take is a passing Pac-Clan ship to fall for their trick and suddenly the Enterprise is a target for vengeful ghosts. The Uxmal prisoners. Uxmal? Who are the Uxmal prisoners?
I don't know.
Oh, are they from that one that had the good music?
I can't remember now. It's too long.
Troy is possessed and there are other people that are possessed.
Oh, Power Play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Law, Maddox, Admiral Haftel. After Descent Past 2, Starfleet finally possesses a suing android whose rights nobody is wanting to defend. Yeah, any of them would be better.
Yeah.
I can't disagree.
I mean, they could have done something with Bock, but what they did do was rubbish.
Well, it would have been good if he was actually Picard's son.
Yeah, as we keep saying.
They undid the good they might have done by making him not.
Predictably, yeah. Okay, Doreen. I think this episode was relatively okay, and I now understand why we went back to season 1 before watching this. Being relatively familiar with Star Trek, the storyline was extremely predictable. Hell yeah. The money thing is really getting to me now. Brandy in exchange for the archaeological artifact. Okay, fine, a trading culture, all well and good, but how did Captain Picard get the brandy? Well, if I remember correctly, he called the artifact a prayer stick. Isn't Picard the one who keeps turning his nose up at religion? That's only, to be honest, in Who Watches the Watchers. Ignore that one. So if the artifact is truly priceless, as the Federation has no money, Picard has no time for religious belief, why is it no value to him? He didn't craft it himself. It's not as if it was the flute from the time he lived an entire life of a long-dead civilization.
See, why did he not show his son the fucking Rescan flute?
No. I think I have the same problem here that Lee from the Black Dog had with Demolition Man. I can't stop seeing the storyline pitfalls. How can a single society work in a moneyless way with all the other societies around them having currencies? Well, that's a reoccurring theme. Okay, thank you, Doreen. And we heard from Drew and Tracy on this one.
Hello, this is our feedback for Bloodlines.
This was quite a good one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this.
Series 7 in another shocker good episode,
Is it Series 7?
It is, yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah, okay. So, Picard was a daddy, yay!
For a while, yeah.
But it was quite obvious that it was going to turn out that he wasn't Jason's
I don't think it's quite
son.
obvious.
I thought it was, yeah.
Apart from that, we've seen and generations and that, and he hasn't got any kids in that.
Yeah, but there had to be a twist in the story, and the only twist would be that he wasn't going to turn out to be a son, and there it was, so it was a bit obvious.
Yeah.
Even I got it, for crying out loud. There was a lot of soft lighting around with Bev today.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
And I noticed Troy was a bit of a flirty-dirty.
She wasn't flirting.
She was.
No,
when
he
she
was
walked
flirting.
into his quarters and he was eyeing her up, she was smiling. She was like, yeah, giggly giggly, looking at me.
I don't think... No, he was
and
being
look
all
how
flirty
close
with
they
her.
sat. Whatever. She loved it. So Jason was 24.
Yeah.
Right? He acted 14. He was a right stroppy little bastard.
And he looks older than 24 to me. The actor's definitely
40
older,
if he's
isn't
a day,
it?
to be fair. But he was a right stroppy little
I
bastard.
know. Yeah, he was.
You think, oh, for goodness sake, whatever.
Yeah. It's a good callback to the battle with Damon Buck, wasn't it?
Damon Buck.
Yeah, that was good. I thought it's a very good idea, this. And yeah, I thought it was very enjoyable, actually. It's one that you just completely don't remember, although about 3/4 of the way I was like, oh yeah, now I remember it all.
You did say when we started watching this, you said, oh, and I don't think I remember this episode.
Yeah, and then it
click.
clicked. Yeah, I think when he was having the neurological shake thing going on, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it's really good, actually. Very enjoyable.
I still don't understand why, when they're in space and they're obviously scanning all the time, that they don't ever see an enemy ship until it's right in their face.
Oh no, they did say that. They said that Damon Bott was using a subspace transporter to transport stuff over really long distances.
Yeah, but twice the Ferengi ship was literally nose to nose with the Enterprise, and then Riker's like,
no, they were
shields up.
They were beaming them in though. That was the thing.
Well,
they
it
said
still
was
got too close before they went like shields up and that.
3 billion light years away. Although sometimes I think when stuff's on the scanner, whatever you call it, viewfinder, they're like really focused close in on it, and it might still be far away.
Oh, I'll have to take your word for that. It just seems a bit daft that things get so close before they actually go, uh-oh.
It was because they were transporting it in.
Right.
I like that, actually, subspace transporters. That's a really good idea.
Why?
Well, because it's just really clever, isn't it? So you can transport through subspace over really far distances. I think it's a little bit of a get at them going, oh yeah, we did look into it, but it's really energy invasive. I mean, that and also, being able to transport onto a spaceship from really far away, that'd be a brilliant weapon. You would think, even how much energy it takes, it'd be worth doing just to have a really good weapon like that. Beam photon torpedoes onto, like Romulan warbirds from 3 billion light years away.
Alright, nerdo, rein it in. What's the matter with you?
Anyhow, it was a good episode, wasn't it?
I
Very
enjoyed it,
enjoyable.
Yeah, it was a good storyline.
But not much else to say.
No, it wasn't an action-packed episode, but it was a nice to have an episode where there was
Enjoyable.
actually a good storyline for a change.
Yeah.
Because Next Generation's been a bit pootastic.
We know that in season 7,
Yeah,
but
so this was a good one.
It's got some high marks, and
Yeah.
perhaps this is one of them.
I enjoyed this.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but we don't agree that it's quite a good one. It wasn't really a twist.
No, that was so not a twist that he wasn't Picard. The twist would have been he was Picard's son.
And no, Troy wasn't flirty.
No, she wanted to get out of there fast.
Yeah.
Awkward.
And yeah, Jason did act 14 and looked a lot older than 24.
Yes, he did, didn't he? Kevin Bacon again.
Yeah.
Can't get him out of my head.
In terms of the subspace transporter, yes, quite possibly it does have lots of uses, but it isn't just energy intensive. They also found it to be unreliable.
Yeah.
Which makes a bit more sense.
But we're glad you enjoyed it.
Yes.
Splendid. There's usually... It's interesting, wasn't it? Uniformly, everybody loved The Wire.
Yeah.
Which is very unusual, because at least there's normally somebody, if everybody likes it, there's normally one person that doesn't.
Yep.
And likewise, as in this case, if everybody doesn't like it very much, there's usually at least one person that does, which is interesting. But, of course, we haven't heard from Purry yet, so let's find out what he thinks.
Hello again, Purry here to talk about Bloodlines. And I had high hopes. I do remember bits of this episode, although weirdly I do kind of mix it up with that one that we had a while back with Kimtar and whatnot. I don't know why, my brain goes into a funny place. And yeah, I was kind of looking forward to this, particularly after watching the battle, as a kind of follow-up idea, because it was like, oh yeah, that was that episode, that was that guy from that episode, so it's a bit of continuity from Season 1, way over in Season 7, that's quite neat. Sadly though, this episode was really dull. It does go into Jeremy Kyle territory very early on. We even get the DNA test, and I have expected Jeremy Kyle to come bursting out of a cupboard and starting to say to Picard, of course your son's gone off the brink and run off the edge, because he said, your dad, you've been faffing about there in the starship instead of being a father to him, blah, blah, blah. But really this was just painfully dull. I think what it didn't help was the fact that Picard's son, I think they were going for kind of a rogue, it didn't work. He came across, I do like the term cheese wanker, I think I've used it twice in this episode, and he just came across that way, when he tries to chat up Troy when she says, basically, I want to know what you're feeling being reunited with your dad. Well, I'll tell you. And she basically says, no, I'm here to counsel you. If we're not going to do that, I'm off. Which is at least good on Troy, but I think it didn't help that the son was completely uncharismatic, and it's kind of like, it doesn't help that he's having to stand next to Patrick Stewart, so you've got this great actor, and then a guy who, even if he was just a bit shonky, would look like a plank of wood, and indeed he does. I think they were trying for sort of, almost a Han Solo kind of character. He's a rogue, he's only in it for himself, but there's maybe a bit of heart there, but he just didn't come across that way at all, and I think that was the real shame, was ultimately they're saying this person might die, and Patrick Stewart's doing his best to try and emote that this is an embarrassing situation for him, and he's potentially interested in having this son, but all you're really sitting there saying, I don't really care if this guy dies. And sure enough, once again, Damon Bok has lulled a bunch of gullible Ferengi into joining his quest for revenge. He's really holding this grudge. And the minute they find out, we'll never get our ransom. Oh, there wasn't going to be a ransom, he was going to kill him just to annoy me. Oh, really? Well, there you go. Why didn't they just find them and phone them up quite early? Okay, at least we had some of the episodes of the crew looking competent in finding them, but just in general, this one was like watching paint dry. I think, is it the Mark who keeps talking about the next gen kitchen sink drama? And yeah, this is really some of the worst. You start subbing in your own jokes, and it's that thing of, could he be your son, Jean-Luc? And you expect Picard going, well, I don't know, it was a fairly large orgy, and in fairness, I may have fathered several children in that, and indeed there were several men who could claim responsibility. It was just that kind of year, but a good shore leave nonetheless. I think, yes, I start turning him into his character from American Dad. That's the problem. When I get bored, Picard becomes, Principal Bullock or whatever his name is. So yeah, I think this was it. I was really bored by this episode. It just wasn't an interesting story, and basically Bok makes up a son to kill in front of Picard just to annoy him. I mean, this is basically what Bok's gone through. He said, I can't find Picard's son, he doesn't have one. Well, I'll make him one. I'll find someone who Picard once had a relationship with, and I'll find her with a son. And when you start saying this plan out loud, it sounds absurd. This is the thing, it's not just that the episode's boring, it doesn't even stand up to scrutiny. So yeah, this one I wasn't keen on at all. So hopefully we'll have some good stuff left over from Season 7. There's not much left, but well, at least I remember all good things being good, so we've got that to look forward to. But all remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. It's a very good podcast, and I always look forward to it. So until then, bye for now.
Bye, Sam.
Yeah, the guy is definitely a cheese wanker. And yeah, you're right. I mean, this this actor is uncharismatic anyway, and he is a proper plank of wood when against
I wouldn't go
Stewart.
that far, but yes, obviously against Patrick Stewart it doesn't look good. He's not the worst we've seen, but he's nothing special, I grant you.
And he's not charismatic, and he's definitely not Han Solo, if that's what they were going for. Bloody
No.
hell. And yeah, we don't care if he might die. I do like the idea of Picard's orgy, though.
Oh my gosh.
That, you know,
Scary.
he's like, well, yeah, I might have a son, but, you know, 3-4 other people might be the father. Kind of like that idea. But yeah, it's not an interesting story. Oh, he's got no son, I'll make him one. It is completely absurd.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't just us that went to a Jeremy Kyle place as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. There we go. That's Bloodlines.
Yeah.
Joy!
AKA period stains. Bloodlines, period stains. Kind of sums up
Oh,
the
thank you
episode
for that
as a-
image. Lovely.
Well, it's a comment on the episode, isn't it? Period stains.
Raising the tone as ever, darling.
I do that.
Yeah. So, you may well ask, what joy have we got next? What joy from season 7
What am I doing
do we
then?
have to look forward to?
What am I doing?
I mean, some of these I've remembered being better than they've turned out to be.
Okay.
This is one where I remembered it being bad, so this does not bode well.
What's it called?
Well, let me tell you, bOrgCast 723 will be recording on Tuesday the 22nd of December. It's
Close to Christmas.
Busy week. I'm hoping to get it all edited and up for Christmas Day for you folks. We shall see. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I seem to remember this happening last year as well, and I managed it just. I will do my bestest. If not, because immediately after Christmas Day we go away for a few days, it will be a bit later. So it'll either be early or late. But the bottom line is, recording on Tuesday, 22nd of December, we are covering Season 7's Emergence.
Oh, is that bollocky one?
Okay, I'm bleeping that out because it's a spoiler for the entire episode, you plonker. And completely removing any point in watching the episode whatsoever.
Okay.
Yes, that is the entire episode. Well done.
Oh.
Can we just miss it out? I kind of wish, but
Yeah,
no.
please.
The completist in me says we have to watch it. But yeah, well remembered.
Okay. It's bollocks.
It is a weird holodeck story. That's all we're revealing.
Sorry.
Mrs.
Sorry.
But on the upside...
It's bollocks.
On the upside, we're also covering Deep Space Nine's Crossover, our first Mirror Universe since Mirror Mirror. And I love it, even if she doesn't. But there we are. We shall be doing battle over that one.
They just do my head in.
Squeaky gear, leather gear.
You like bondage, Kira?
I would be lying if I said I didn't. Splendid stuff. We look forward to that intensely. Well, thank you to everybody who fed back.
Thank you.
Most kind of you.
Thank you for watching what was a very bad, incredibly convoluted episode of Next Generation.
But on the upside, everybody agreed the Wild was fantastic.
No, it was awesome. It was awesome.
And we'll catch you next time. Cheery bye.
Bye.
There was one in the gang who had scale X trick, and because of that he thought he was better than you. Every day after school you'd go round there to play it, hoping to compete for some kind of championship, but it always took about 15 billion hours to set the track up, and even when you did, the thing never seemed to work.
The bOrgCast is brought to you by the lovely people at geekplanetonline.com.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
To contact us, you can use the forums at geekplanetonline.com.
Visit our Tumblr site at bOrgCast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send email messages or MP3s to borgcast@geekplanetonline.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or bOrgCastAmmo. #bOrgCast.
So he'd send his doting mother up the stairs with the step ladders to get the Subutio out of the loft. He had all the accessories required for that big match atmosphere, the crowd and the dugout and the floodlights too. You'd always get palmed off with a headless centre forward and a goalkeeper with no arms and a face like his.
Shut it down!